I'd
Okay.
like to welcome my longtime friend, Maurizio from Cataclysm to BraveWords streaming for vengeance. How are you doing, buddy?
Good, good, good. How about yourself? How you been up? What have you been up to?
It's you know what? It's just the roller coaster life that's the heavy metal world, right? Although I think there's more ups and downs these days, for sure, right?
Yeah. We're kind of out of the big cloud we had for a couple of years and looking a little bit better now. So, although things still look upside down a little, we're still we're okay, compared to before. So
Now,
it's
can I just start on a non-metal tangent because of your heritage and your roots, and maybe the same path that this gentleman had, Tony Bennett, who passed away.
right,
Can you
right.
relate? Can your family you know what I
I
mean?
mean, it's part of my upbringing. Tony Bennett was part of my mom's favorite collection of artists for that time. And
Right.
if you're Italian and it's Christmas time, there's it's in the background. So it's part of our heritage. And what a classic, legendary singer, and he did so much, for the industry. So it's definitely a big loss. He toughed it out though. He's got them Italian genes, man. 96. So that's pretty cool.
Now, can you relate to how he immigrated to Canada and the way your family might have done the same thing in the late 1800s? Or tell me.
So mine was more in the 40s, right after World War II. It's funny because my family, when they're from Bari, which is like the south of Italy, and right where the heel is, right? So
Okay.
basically, so when it was time for them to get out of there because it was chaos, it was a lot of problems after World War II was done. They gave them three choices. They said, "You go to America." And you have three choices. You have either Boston was the number one choice, and then there was New York, and then there was Montreal. Those were the three. And they were like, okay, what's the difference? They only knew New York, but they didn't know much about the rest, right? And they told them there's one that has free healthcare, the others don't. So they decided to go to Montreal.
Well,
so
smart
so it
people.
wasn't the real US, right? So a lot like according to them, they saw the Statue of Liberty maybe as America. They
Sure.
didn't know Canada was, it was as good, it's just different. And French because it was Montreal, so they got there as French, So, but I think they had some siblings already that were in Canada, and so there was some connection there. So I think it was making the decision easier for them. So that was how they got into the States, well, in North America. Some went to Argentina. They said it's the same thing as the United States, but it's down in South America. So
Right.
that was a big difference
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah,
you
absolutely.
go down
Oh,
there.
dude,
Yeah.
that's fascinating history.
Yeah.
Well, you've already spoke about the whole COVID thing, and it's when you have angry situations, it's easy, I guess, when you're a metal band to kind of create artwork based on anger, because once again, Goliath coming out August 11th,
Right.
it's nothing short of menacing.
Right. And it's kind of portraying how we feel. I think well, like a lot of people feel, and it was born out of that pandemic. Like when we did Unconquered, the album was basically done. We were shooting a video for the kill shot in Atlanta, and then boom, it just shut down. We were at the airport, they were talking about shutting down the country. So it got released in a time where the album didn't fit anymore, the kind of not narrative, but the situation we're in, so it was kind of like crazy time. We decided to release the record against the label's kind of intuition, and they were like, wait, we were like, no, people need music. Like we use it for therapy. I know people have nothing else to do, they're in their homes, let's just put the music on. That's what we did. We don't regret the decision. But this record was released at the end of the pandemic. Like we started writing it in early 22. Still kind of lockdowns around the world a little bit, very hectic stuff going on. So this record is kind of an accumulation of 2 years of being kind of in chains, I have to say. I felt it was like that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like it was very tight grip approach on the whole thing. And we felt we had a lot of anger, I think a lot of anxiety. So that I think it's portraying off the record. Goliath for me is not just a meaning of, for example, what happened. It's a general idea, right? So Goliath could be, if you want to see it as a big tight grip that governments and people had over decision making over this thing and how people got treated. I think that you could see it that way, but there's also a mental state. There's a lot of people that got hurt from this, and also I think that the biggest demon is fear, and that's what Goliath is for us. It's if you got fear, you're not moving forward in anything. So the concept is very, very the range is high. It's big because it touches a lot of different subjects like that. So that was the main focus for us with Goliath. So it's I'm very big on free speech and free choice. Freedom of choice and speech for me is extremely important. Me and you are not having a conversation if freedom of speech is gone, and I think there was a lot of censorship that came out of it. You know what I mean? So I didn't like that too much.
And you're right, the state of mental health, it's still lingering, right?
A lot. It's really bad, especially, I got a 19-year-old boy, and Angelo, I think you've met him maybe once, or I'm not sure in the past, but so he suffered a lot. I mean, right in the time where you're coming out of high school, your last year of high school, you go through all this lockdown stuff. He came out of it pretty badly affected, and if he got like that, I can guarantee you there's a whole generation that is affected from this. It's going to take time for them to get out and back into normal life, if that's what you want to call it, where we are now.
Doesn't feel like normal even today.
No, it doesn't. Right?
So at our age, and we're about the same age, what's fueling the fire these days? Or maybe you just answered it.
I think that we have a lot to say, and still, I think that we got a lot of juice left in the tank. I think that I need to have this. It's therapeutic, like I said. Like that's why Cataclysm's banged so many records out. Like it's one of those things where every 2-3 years we got, some people punch it in a punching bag. Like I have to release music, you know what I mean? Go on tour, and that's how I get it out. I do love it. It's passion for me, but I think that's a normal consensus in Cataclysm. And that's why I think we've been so consistent, because it's part of our, we got into it. Somebody's lying, I think, if only 1%, maybe that's 1%, but I think a lot of people get into metal because of issues, or they get into metal because it's an escape. It's a very specific genre of music that you have to really want to be in it. It doesn't come naturally, let's say. Maybe for me and you, it came naturally when we were younger, but I still think it's a complicated world, and you need to be a specific person to get in there, and understand it and all that stuff. So,
but if you were looking just even at the roots, Blitz maybe said it perfectly, like Hello from the Gutter. They were pissing on people in the 60s, going to Woodstock. You know what I mean? Hendrix and like the originators of the riff, right? It's not just the metal scene.
Yep.
It was way back.
And then that's where this record is born also out of. It's out of like what happened to rebellion, what happened to being anti-conformist. Like I'm not mentioning names, but I had a lot of friends in metal, like from other bands, just dictating what people should do. And I didn't like that. Like, it's not your place, like we're musicians, we're out there to give a message and stuff, through our music. And that's where it should be. Like I'm doing right now. You don't see me with a thing like fucking screaming at people, do this. Like, I just don't do that. I let people do their own thing, and at the end they should respect that. But there was a lot of finger pointing and a lot of crap. That's not where we come from in metal, like this jar came out of an opposition and questioning things, so at least that's where I come from, unless it's changed now and I'm one of the last Mohicans with you. It's like
no, dude, nothing has changed. But speaking of age and change, your vocal approach to things these days, and how like when you actually listen to yourself, how do you think you've grown, or have you?
I have. I'm way more confident. And one of the things that I see in myself is I don't lose my voice anymore on tour, which is a part of not being confident enough and being nervous when you get on a stage. then you use it differently. You're too trying to push too hard to impress people. You're doing all this kind of stuff. And I think I battled that for many years in my career. And the last, I would say, 10 years and 8 years or so, I've been very confident. My delivery is better, I believe. Like record, you can feel there's an emotion in it behind it that's not really wasn't always there with me, so I feel I got better with age, as a singer, and a writer. So I think the band in general is in a stronger position right now, like it's just feels good.
Was there any singer or singers when you were growing up and you saw them on TV or live and you just looked and said, fuck, this is going to be my career. I've got to do this and I'm going to try to do it better.
Well, I mean, do better. I think it's just a matter of surviving first, the whole what's thrown at you in this industry. But I think, I remember the times where what to me was fun was even if it was MTV or Much Music back then, Music Plus in Montreal. We were able to watch these videos and give you a visual. Now it's YouTube, but back then it was like you would wait for that hour of metal that's going to come up and what's the new video that's coming out. You had that anxiety about like in the anticipation factor that right now is gone because now it's just like, okay, it's coming, or they just drop it, nobody knows, and it's just dropped, and you're like, oh, okay, here's a new single. I love that fact. For example, I got into rock early on with Kill 'Em All from Metallica was one of my first record I bought that was metal, just because of the hammer with the blood. I was just like, I got to get that. And it's funny because we're album of the month in Metal Hammer right now, and that's the cover. It's the Metallica 1983, I think, believe like
wow.
the hammer. So nice. It's really cool. Nice. It's weird. That was my first record I bought. So I got into it like that. And visually, I saw Axl Rose in a video. I don't remember if it was Welcome to the Jungle or something like that. And when I saw that, I was like, man, it's not like the other rock bands. This is a rebel here. Doesn't give a shit about nobody. He's like party and fuck everything. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on your thing, but I did it. So
you did, yes.
Edit, and then I just saw it as like this big rebellion, right? And then grunge came and killed that, right? So I was listening to all this stuff, and that's what got to me. What got to me also is Testament. I'm a big Chuck Billy fan because he enunciates, and you could really hear him, and he's got that tough voice at the same time of enunciation. And in death metal, I'm kind of like that guy that's you're capable of hearing what I have to say, but it's still aggressive. It still fits in. So when he started doing some death metal growls, I was like, oh man, he's coming our way, like he's getting heavier. The Gathering, right? So I was like, yeah. So I was a big fan of him. Tamaraya, Slayer, obviously one of my favorite bands ever. Repeat It Again, because it was, but I never, got into death metal because of my age. That was the rebellion music, when it came out, Deicide, Cannibal Corpse, and so that's what drove me that way. You know what I mean? So I got all those influences in me, and then the biggest one I would say was when Phil Anselmo came out, Pantera. That was the next disc to grunge, right? So grunge killed that rock scene, and then here comes Pantera saying, this is it, this is the real deal now. And it was rebellion stuff, and I just liked that part. That's what drove me in it.
Tom Araya, speaking of anger and being rebellious, he gave me a really interesting quote a few years back, and he says, we've been living on this planet for thousands of years, but we still can't fucking get along. And that was inspiration for a lot of Slayer songs. And that's right. It's reality. So yeah. I can see that angle when, I don't know, when you're creating music, and it's a shitty world.
It is a shitty world, and it's more than ever now. And you would think that, after everything this planet's been through, all of us, we would all get along. But I'm going to say one positive thing out of all this. In metal, we are probably the only place where all that stuff is out the window when you go to a concert. It's still the place of gathering for all the outcasts, right? We all go there, we're having our beers or whiskey, or maybe 10 of them in my tour bus, remember? And then
a couple of weeks I'm gonna remember.
Yeah.
Summer breeze, dude.
Yeah. So oh yeah, you'll be there, right? Again.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. I'm bringing a cigar for you.
Nice.
So it's that type of feeling where color don't mind. It doesn't matter. Creed doesn't matter. How you look doesn't matter. We're all together. Like, did you listen to this latest record, or what's going on? And
Right.
so you start seeing a little bit of the political thing starting to kind of come in a little bit. It wants to make its way out in there, but I think people don't want that in metal. There's a reason why we're outcasts, in a way. So I really believe that, and it's a getaway, and we're still there doing it. And I think metal's special for that. So there's hope, in my opinion. If everything was like metal, we'd probably be okay, right?
Yeah, right. I love that quote.
Yeah, we'd probably be okay.
Speaking of confidence, probably the last time I saw you was at Summer Breeze, and you're right. Like, you're owning it. I've never, maybe once I've seen a pit as big, Molson Park with Ministry, but dude, that pit at Summer Breeze, holy fucking shit. There was like not just hundreds of people, there was like tens of thousands of people. And I'm watching you guys and I'm like, oh, wow, this is just unbelievable.
I remember it was a good time, and Germany's always been very good to Cataclysm, and it continues to be a mecca. Like, that's why we all go there, to do the open airs and hang out. And but it's part of who we are. Cataclysm's always been a very connected band with its fans. It's the people get it, the lyrics, they're very attached to it. That's why they sing it live, and we have that connection that's special.
Now, not that I'm aging you, but you're definitely obviously elders in the scene. Do you see like your role bringing things back to the scene? How do you view your role as, like, you guys look amazing, but what's your anniversary of these? You were formed in
91, so 32 years.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like, I mean, luckily I was like, what, 15 when I started, so it's like, I'm like, we're still okay. I just turned 49 in June, so I'm like 1 year away from the big 50, but I don't feel bad. I feel great. The whole band feels great. We've kept ourselves in good shape. Like, I think we're solid. What we're bringing, I think, now is a vision for the young generation that are getting into it now. So if we're still doing it, and we're still meaning something, obviously, this record's off to an incredible start, probably one of the best in my career. It shows that you can still do it at an older age, which we didn't have that reference, right? We started, I remember, I don't know if you remember him, Gubby at Cargo.
Yes. Yeah.
So he when he first helped us get signed to Nuclear Blast, he turned around and says, enjoy it, because it could be only 5 years. Maybe you do one record or two records, so enjoy your time. He was trying to make me understand that bands don't last in this world. So, and then when I go back now and I think about that moment, it's crazy. 32 years later, everything I've accomplished in the band, even winning a Juno, which is weird, like for death metal. It's crazy. So everything's possible. That's a very good thing. So I think I can give fans that, like, and people in general, that approach. Plus, I'm very involved with agencies. I'm very involved with management, and I do a lot of stuff on the outside as well. But it's kind of all connected, like it's kind of my role now as I phase out, being a musician. Maybe, I don't know how long, there is a time limit, there is going to be one. So at some point it's going to be like,
well, they call that a coffin, right?
So, right. For some people. I got a different approach. I'm like, I'm not going on a stage in a wheelchair. So I'm telling you right now, if I start looking real bad, I'm not ending that way. I'll be an executive somewhere, but I'm not going to do that.
So, just let me back up to the new record. And when did Cataclysm bring on an actual drum machine?
No,
I'm totally joking, dude. It's like,
yeah, he's a crazy drummer.
He's nuts.
Yeah, and he's nuts, and it's like he's like always belonged in Cataclysm for some reason. He's the chemistry with this guy is incredible. Like, to bring him in, I have to say where it comes from, and it come again from the mental stuff that happened during COVID, because we had issues with Ollie, the drummer that I had in the band before. We had some friction, and there was a little bit cracks in the foundation there, but not enough to do anything. But when this thing hit, it really opened up not only for us, but for a lot of people's different things that they were going on in their lives, and it made it worse. So it kind of opened up wounds, and it was like time for us to split. But he was always in the picture. James was always in the picture. We knew him for a while back. He never joined a band before. Like, he was very independent because he's very well known as a drummer. So he's got his own channel, does really well. So he was like in his thing, but he joined Cataclysm. Like, he was like, I have a feeling I'm supposed to be with you guys, and this guy was like a drummer that could be with any band. A lot of bands wanted him. I mean, he's followed by the dudes from Korn, like all kinds of big bands that follow him, his drum skills. So he chose Cataclysm and comes in, and the chemistry right away. Then he also, it's the best Cataclysm lineup since the times we had Max, because Max was a founder with us, of our style. So that chemistry was kind of lost. The fact that it's back now, he brought it. He also respects Max drumming inventions like the Northern Hyperblast that for 4 records gone because Ollie didn't want to play it. So this guy's like, that's what your band comes from. I want to be true to its traditions, right? So he brought that back, but then he brought the machine on top, right? So it's kind of like, he's a great drummer. We're very happy with him.
So what is the glue that keeps the three amigos? I know you've got the new drummer, but the 3 of you have been together for a long time. What's the magic there?
I think joy and pain, and the will. I think it's those things that keep us together as a family. We've always taken care of each other. If somebody's down and out, we're all get together and help them. And we need that. It's a family. But you have to have those moments when it's difficult to really feel and see that you're all together for real. Like, you got each other's back. And I think that's important. We have the same goal. We love what we do. We enjoy each other's company. So, it's not like everybody's got their own bus, or we couldn't afford it anyways, but there is no, especially these days, right? Bus went from 1,200 to 2,000 a day. It's insane now, right? So if you can live together like this, more, it's almost, we see each other more than our families. Right. So you have to be able to have that. So we have that, and that's a big plus. It's understanding each other. So it's important. We're lucky because we found each other too, right? There's like in the whole world, it's like you got the chemistry with these guys. It's hard to find. So,
do you believe in fate?
I'm believing more and more as I'm getting older. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that there's an energy out there. I used to say to JF this crazy stuff, and I don't know why he followed me, but I used to say, man, there's something up there. It's guiding the band. It's going to guide us through this. It's telling me it's the right decision. I don't know why. Let's just do it, and it worked. And sometimes it was just out of instinct, So I believe that's instinct as well. But as I'm getting older, I'm believing there's something else that's out there, connecting the dots.
Now, this is part of your world as well. Talk to me about the new touring math, if you know what I mean. There's certain bands that I don't even think I'll ever see come back to Canada because they can't do it economically.
Yeah. It's a disaster out there. And, as you know, I run a bunch of bands on my management. And it's difficult because expectations continue to go high. Bands think that because they stopped for 3 years, they're owed something now, because it's like, hey, man, 3 years of no money and dying, now we're here, give it to me. And it's like, no, because everything's down, right? So everybody's out. It creates an inflation of itself in the music industry, because it's not only about the money. Now you have all these bands touring at the same time. So now you got no space. That means that the promoters have to choose. So who gets crushed? Either the little ones or the middle class. And right now it's the middle class that's getting crumbled to pieces, because it needs to tour to survive, and it needs a certain amount of money to be out there. And now, like I said, you're looking at about 40 to 50% increase, sometimes 60% increase on everything, even crew. Like, for example, if we had crew and what did they do during the pandemic? They left. They went to get other jobs, working, rigs and whatever. Right. And then you get like the ones that remain are like in so high demand, they're like doubling their price. So it's a tough time. It's a tough time, and it's not adjusted yet. On top of that, now you got promoters. I don't know if you saw Derek Green's thing today or a couple of days ago that he's freaking out about the merch cuts. It's insane now. Like if you go to Europe, they're charging you some promoters and clubs charging you 20% and then 20% VAT tax on top. So now you're losing 40% of your income. Like, I mean, on merch. That's biggest cash grab I've ever seen in my life, if there is one. And the reason that's happening is that this is information nobody got, because most bands are just playing music they don't know, because I'm really connected inside. And the reason is the government is sending somebody that's going to go collect that VAT tax. So they have to charge 20% to sell your merch to these people.
Right.
While they'll pay them maybe 100 euros to sell your merch, but they're taking 20.
Yeah.
So it's a complete cash. Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. I won't be surprised bands are selling out of their tour bus or something like that on the outside.
So you see it ironing out. What's
I see if it doesn't change, there's going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of bands that are going to fold, and because for many bands, all the income that's coming in from guarantees at concerts, I'm talking about middle class bands, especially the ones that are right there keeping it all together. Those bands are going to have all their income go through expenses, crew, buses, flights. It goes through all that, visas, then the merch store profit. So now you're taking 50%, you'll kill the band. So that's kind of where we are right now. Some bands get away with it. Some, are able to move around, but in general, that's the big problem that we're seeing.
Couple more quickies for you here. Let's maybe have a little bit more of a happy note. Where's all the Cataclysm history stored? All the posters and T-shirts and all the paraphernalia.
I have some here in my house. I have like all the Grammys and all the stuff paraphernalia that I have here. But there is no museum.
I know we need one. I need one.
I know we talked about this, and it's still in my head, and I think that's a good idea. It just has to be like done the right way, But it definitely needs. There is none.
Yeah.
So when we're gone, it'll be gone. You know what I mean? So
that's
it'll be cool. It would be cool to have. I know that you are the ambassador of all things metal, and that you got the biggest collection there is out there in the world. And that's definitely worth something and should be looked at for sure, because I mean, it is missing that, right? So
I'm a big believer in fate too. I hope the planets align and it can go somewhere, because it's a little frustrating. There's a lot of stuff around here that needs to be seen. Absolutely.
You need to buy a house just to put all your stuff in it.
Exactly.
Just for that. You're heading that way. Yeah. So, yeah. And I'm bad because I don't even have the first Cataclysm demo. I don't have it.
Right.
There's only 8 of those worldwide, and they're circulating some places. And I've seen it on eBay once for $100, like the demo. I haven't have it. So that's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like that would be a great piece, where it all started.
Yeah. And there's probably stuff in my files that you've never seen before.
You probably got so much more than like in some things I'll probably be like, no, I don't want to see that.
So dude, let's wrap this up. Give me the timeline. I know we're going to see you overseas in a couple of weeks. I can't wait. And what's the feeling?
Well, we're going to close this up July 31st. We're going to fly out to Europe. We're going to do Wacken Open Air, Summer Breeze. I'll see you there. Metal Days, bunch of festivals. We got 2 record launch shows that we're doing because we're going to be underground there. So basically, we're doing that part first, and then releasing the record August 11th. They're coming back home. We're going to chill a little bit, and then we're going to start the entire campaign for Goliath. It's going to probably be in Canada that we're going to start it in November. We're going to do Quebec and Ontario first. For this record, because we feel we haven't really been enough around our home country, and this is the time, and we're gonna initiate the whole thing in Canada. So that's the plan right now. So, and then we'll see next year what happens, but that's the only Goliath stuff happening this year is going to be in Canada.
And what about other projects?
Ex Deo, some material that we're discussing to write. We're trying. It's not going to be a record. It's most likely going to be an EP. So I'm going to do something like that, and during the course of this year, early next year, and then see when I can put it out. that's about it. Invictus was kind of like a one-off record that I did for that, and it was during the pandemic. I don't know if I'll do another one, but for now, that's the way it's looking. But this is such a big record for us already that I think it's going to take a lot of time. So I think I'm going to be invested in this for a bit.
Nice, dude. So great to see you and talk to you. It's always a pleasure to hang. More fun in person, obviously.
Yes. Well, that's coming, right? I got the whiskey, and I'll bring the cigars too.
I got the empty glass. Dude, thanks so much, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Take care, man.